Hmm. Hello, everybody. It's AskPat13. A long time no see. I am back streaming again. Today, we're going to be covering something fun, something exciting. RLCS. We're going to be talking about the European RLCS. I'm going to call it main event, but it's not quite main event any longer. But we'll refer to it as main event. It's an exciting time. I think we had the North American regional that happened. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Recap for folks who couldn't watch that one themselves. And then get into talking about the European. I think the main focus today will be talking about that European regional, which is obviously very exciting. But without too much, we'll get into it. Give me one. I'm going to let people know we're live. We haven't been live in a bit, so it might take us a while to get some people, but I am not too worried. We should be getting people in no time. Give me just a minute. We'll notify people we are live. Let me know in the chat how your day is going. What are your thoughts about the upcoming regional? Well, or if you're worried I'll be spoiled, no worries. I'll do my own predictions and you can share your thoughts on those. Here we go. I got a shareable link. There we go. Let me also notify the 100X Discord. There we go. Everything's all set. Welcome, Mystic Vitality. Simple, short, straight to the point. I respect it, Mystic. You're calling it for Vitality. Let me actually switch. I just realized you guys can't see what I'm looking at, so let me switch it over really quickly. There we go. And this is going to be the view for most of the stream because we're going to be going through. We've got the bracket here. I'm going to go through and give my thoughts. But before that, then we'll also do Pickstop real quick, just to do it. But first up, let's talk the teams. Let's talk the open qualifier double elim bracket because that's really the main thing. The only thing we have going for us is this like official like RLCS results was this huge double elim bracket. Now obviously the favorites are probably going to be the teams that came in through the upper bracket, although I think there's obviously one notable name that did drop a series. Gentle Mates, expected to make it through the upper bracket, ultimately lost in a sweep to Endpoint in a really exciting series. As someone that's a fan of Seiko and also just likes Endpoint the org, it was like bittersweet, the victory, because it's always nice to see Endpoint succeed. I just, whenever they had Seiko on the roster back in the days, especially before that when they had Virtuoso, I've been a fan of the org, and I still like the org. Obviously, it's a completely different team. It's not even continuous to their old roster, but shocking, really, because like it's not a team that you'd expect to be taking down Seiko, Juicy, and Itachi. On paper, Maintain, Arju, Smokes. This is a regional team. They're going to be making every regional. I have no doubt about that. But taking down Gentlemates was definitely unexpected. And even more so for it to be a sweep. I mean, it would be one thing if it was a Game 5 upset. But sweep upsets, they're rare. They're rare indeed. Hello, Nova. How are you doing today? I see you, Nova, in the chat. Have you looked at the results of the open qualifier double in bracket for EU? If not, I might be spoiling, but we've got a regional events coming up for Europe, and we're going to be looking at predicting how that main event will go. This here will be the bracket, but in the meantime, we're looking at how the open qualifier, the whole thing's called an open qualifier nowadays, but we're looking at how the open qualifier went. So just as a recap for anyone that didn't get to catch it live, we got Carmine Corp, had no trouble, breezed through. Now, obviously, this was day 3, so there were actually 2 days before this, so tons of matches, but I don't even think we need to look. I am like 99.9% sure Carmine Corp never dropped a game. Not only did they not drop a game, look at these score lines. They were dominating their opponents. 8-0, 5-1, 6-1. Then Tea Time, unfortunately, we don't have the game scores here, but they also dominated Tea Time. I can say from someone that went back and watched some of that. to get the footage. They dominated Tea Time, and Tea Time in particular was no slouches. This is Scrubkilla's team. So let's take a look here at Tea Time. They did not qualify for the main event, but it is Scrubkilla, Hibbs, and Gom, 3 RLCS pros that have made it to main events before, and although they didn't make it this time, no slouches for Karmine Corp to be beating 3-0. Then we'll quickly take a look at Magnifico. They beat Forward, a team that is in the main event, a top 16 team, and they also beat some other teams along the way. No struggles for them either. My biggest concerns are going to be how they face the other top 8 teams. I think they're a team that's in that top 8, top 10 conversation. I think they're at least top 8 for sure. And I think how far they can go if they do make the playoffs is going to be entirely dependent on can they take down the top teams. I'm not sure. Maybe they're ready. Maybe they're good enough for anyone that isn't aware. Let me pull up Magnifico. I know it's Atomic's team. It consists of Atomic, Stizzy, and Tox. It's a good team. 3 players that have been around the top of RLCS. Stizzy, I think most recently, Stizzy on, if I'm not recalling, Monaco Esports. That was it, yeah. Played for Aogiri, played for Monaco. Seen some success there, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how he... I think this is his best roster, perhaps, with Atomic and Tox. Welcome, Abax. Welcome, Suspect. Welcome, Ashawn. Hey, guys. I missed you guys as well. I'm glad to be here. We're going to be talking EU RLCS. Yeah, Suspect. Long time no see. We missed a week, but we're back. We're talking EU RLCS. We're quickly running through this open bracket, the double LM open bracket that got teams to the top 16. Then we're going to dive into the top 16 in my predictions. But for first, we're just quickly recapping how it went. I missed you guys as well. Thank you. Thank you for being here. I honestly, it didn't work out to stream last week. I should have notified people, but hey, we're back. And I'm excited to be talking. I wish I could have talked more about North American RLCS. It feels like we almost missed a region. We didn't miss it. I did put out a prediction video, but the prediction video came so late, felt like we almost skipped a regional here. But here we are, EU Regional number 1, talking about it now. Welcome, Shannon. Hey, no worries. Hey, no worries, Shannon. I might be on a little bit later. It might not be. I don't know how long. We'll probably be at least an hour. We're talking European RLCS. If you can make it, great. If you can't sit around, no worries at all. Glad to have you. But yeah, we're recapping this. I think... I recently put out a power ranking video for Europe. By the way, if you haven't watched it, no worries, you can watch it later. You don't have to watch it right now. But I basically put, I believe Magnifico at 8th. They might have been at 7th or 8th. I don't recall the exact spot. But that's pretty much where I think of them. And again, it's not that they couldn't do better, because I think people look at this roster, and I even saw in the comments, people think they're going to potentially be major worthy. I think that's a step farther than I would put them. I don't think they're going to make the major, but it's not impossible. They're one of those teams that is in that fight, in that zone where they could peak, outperform expectations, and make it to top 4, make it to the major. And it's going to take more than one top 4. I think that's what's going to be brutal about this split is there's 3 regionals and that's it. And yes, that's the same way as last season, but there's only 2 splits, not 3. So if you want to make the World Championship, you can't afford to have an off split. You really want to make the first major. And to do that, it's going to take consistency. And we'll see if Magnifico can be consistent. Really, that's my only concern is Atomic's had splits before where he wasn't consistent. If nothing else, one more. Hey, I appreciate it, Shannon. Thank you for liking the stream. Thank you, guys. Hey, as he says, if you're enjoying the stream, like it. It'll help more people flood in. And I appreciate all you guys for watching. All right. Let me know your thoughts, by the way, on what I'm talking about in the chat. If you if you're excited by any particular team, who you think's gonna win. You don't have to run through. We'll run through the whole Swiss bracket when I predict it, but you don't have to obviously share your whole bracket. Next up, BDS Resolve. This was a fascinating one. I didn't know what to think of Resolve. I think there's a lot of things I like, but at the same time, I don't know if Resolve is going to be able to take the next step. BDS, on the other hand, is a team that many people have top 3, but I put them 4th. I think Oxygen is going to be a bigger threat. That's the next team we're going to talk about. I think they're going to be a bigger threat than BDS. But that's mainly because of Drawley. I know Drawley has the potential to be one of the best players in Europe, but he's a rookie, a true rookie. And there's a lot of rookies we've seen that have tried out for RLCS before. To my knowledge, Drawley has never tried in an RLCS qualifier. This was his first time competing in an RLCS match at all. A lot of rookies, I'm going to use rookies in quotation marks because a lot of rookies aren't actually rookies. And what I mean by that is they are rookies because they've never made it to RLCS, but they've played in qualifiers before. And if you've played in like a year of qualifiers, it's almost like, are you really a rookie? You've been trying for a year. It's like a distinction. Drawley, though, true rookie, and it's going to be fascinating to see how he does. Speaking of that, this is going to random side note, but on the Snowmen, they also had a true rookie. But we'll quickly take it back to North America. We're not going to talk too much about them, but as I said, we missed the regional. G2, by the way, the winners. Spoiler alert. I probably should have said spoiler alert if you haven't watched it. Gen.G got second. It was a pretty lopsided grand finals, but other than that, Gen.G did look like a clear top 2. It was a rough grand finals, though. Shopify, Rebellion, and Dignitas rounding out the top 4. My power rankings, I stand by them for the most part. I think a few mistakes, a bit of a too high on TSM for sure, and too low on Shopify. Those were the biggest hits and misses. I really stand by pretty much everything else. Maybe the other miss was Pirates on a Boat, but other than that, I stand by. I think relatively accurate. Oh, OG. OG is another big miss, but everybody missed on OG, and I honestly think they got unlucky. OG lost to 3 teams in the top 8, so we won't talk about it too much, but yeah, they lost to 3 in the top 8. Look at viewers' predictions. Have you done? I'm about to do European predictions right now, Abax. Welcome, Daniel. Well, good to see you as well. How are you doing today, Daniel? Welcome, Don. Falcons the best team in the world right now. I've seen people have that take. I think I've seen you have that take. I don't think Falcons is the #1 team in the world when Europe got 4 out of 4 top 4 teams in the world last World Championship. Now, don't get me wrong. Just because you did well last season, there's no guarantee you're going to do well this season. But it's really hard to say for certain. Like you're saying certain, it seems anyway, that you are saying Falcons are for sure the best team in the world. And I don't know how you can say that when there's no way to prove it when Europe was clearly better last season. So you got to think a European team is clearly the best. If there was a clear, I don't think there is. That's what I'm saying, I guess, is there's no way to determine who is the best. So if you had to pick a best, you'd probably pick the team in Europe you think is the best. But anyway, enough about Falcons. They are a good team. In fact, I do think Falcons is going to be one of those teams fighting for the major title. I think that there's only going to be a handful, like 5 or less teams that have an actual chance at winning the major, and Falcons is going to be one of them. All right, enough about NA. I forget what I was... What did I switch over for? Oh, yeah, Snowmen. What I was going to say is Snowmen, if we quickly take a look... Did I open up this whole prize pool? And I did not mean to do that. If we take a look at Snowmen, Scribbles, a true rookie, which there's surprisingly few of. Had never played in an RLCS qualifier and made his first event. So, same with Zen. Zen was a true rookie. Well, actually, Zen was a weird case because he was in a qualifier but his one qualifier he was in, he was too young. Hey, anyway, enough about that. Thoughts on Belagal? Yeah, let's take it back to Europe, and that's actually the next thing I'm going to talk about. Belagal versus Moist. We're skipping over Oxygen and Vitality, but we'll skip ahead, Daniel, to a great question. Thoughts on Belagal? Now, at first, I unironically, when I was just looking at the names, which is a bad way to power rank teams, by the way, I just looked at the rosters, and I had an initial power ranking for my top 16. I had Belagal at dead last. Then I looked at what happened in the open qualifier, and I had to rework that because they took Moist to a game 5, and I went back because I didn't watch this live. I rewatched that series. The game 5, Belagal nearly scored at 0 seconds. They nearly won the game, won the series at a buzzer beater. And the fact that Moist saved it literally came down to the last second. They nearly scored at 0 seconds, and they played a close overtime against Moist. So despite that loss, I think they're looking quite good. Another reason I had them low originally is the next team they beat was Luna Galaxy. A team that I don't really consider that good. Yeah, they have picked up by an org. Yes, it's a Chronic, but a Chronic is joined by 2 pretty weak teammates. And Belagal did drop a game, but then I realized a lot of teams were dropping games they shouldn't have, including Vitality. Dropped a game to Gross Noobs, dropped a game to Top Cougars. So I'm not going to count it against... Belagal that they dropped a game to Luna Galaxy. It was just one game. They won the series still relatively comfortably. So I think I put them around 13th, which is still low, obviously. But I think I said it. all the teams in Europe down to the very last 16th team could make playoffs. That may sound crazy, but the bottom half of Europe is still so competitive with the bottom 4 through 8. Like, there's basically tiers of Europe, and the bottom 8 or 9 or maybe 7, I guess 7 to 9 teams in EU are close enough to the top 8 that anybody can make the playoffs, really, including Belgium. So Speed, Temper, Heider, they're a good squad. But honestly, again, paper is a bad way to judge teams, but on paper, they're one of the weakest teams, but they clearly proved that they're better. They're better than the sum of their parts, and I'm excited to see if they can rekindle that magic against Moist and take it a step further and beat a team like Moist in the main event. We'll have to see how they do, though. Can I get your thoughts? Yeah. I'll review other people's brackets after I've made my own, because I don't want to see a whole bracket and have it biased the way I'm building my Swiss. Do you think any NA teams will make the World Championship Grand Finals? The World Championship Grand Finals? Probably not, but that's so far away that it's hard to say. I know people are going to say G2, and I do think G2 are good. I just think it's too soon to say G2 is going to be a major grand finalist or a major winner. I'm not convinced. I am convinced that they're going to be a top 8 team at the first major, G2. I think even though it's just been one regional, I wasn't sure. Now I'm sure. I think they are legit. But there's a huge difference between being a top 8 team in the world and making a grand final. And I don't know if G2 or any NA team is going to be able to do that. Gen G, let's talk about them real quick. I mean, I had them as best in NA, and I still think they may be, just not right now. But by the time the first major hits, maybe they pass G2. I don't think so, though. And if they can't pass G2, and it's the same deal with G2. Like, I don't see Gen G or G2 getting further than maybe top 8. But we'll see, though. The biggest problem is South America looks deadlier than it's ever been. So if you have a Team Falcons in MENA that's going to be fighting for a title, you have at least 3 or 4 teams in Europe that are fighting for a title, and you have 2 South American. I think both South American teams are going to be fighting, which might be crazy to say, but I think Complexity and Furia are at that level. So where does NA fit into that? I don't know. I don't know where NA fits into that. So sorry, Mystic, a bit complicated of an answer, but I'm not sure where NA fits in this season. I think they're one of the hardest regions to place, I will say. They feel pretty hard to place. Moist isn't as good this season. That's fair, Ishan, but I think people are downplaying Moist way too much. It's Joyo. I think you guys forget what Moist did at the Winter Major last year, or was it Fall Major? They got a second place with a weak squad on paper. I know it had Astral, who is a great player, but Astral hasn't been living up to that form. And the fact that he managed to get top 2 on Moist, I think is a testament to Joyo, really. But I digress. Is it Grow Noobs, really? Nah, my bad. I didn't know how it's pronounced. Top 8 at Worlds will be K-Core, Vitality, Oxygen, Magnifico, G2, Falcons, Complexity, and Crew. You don't think Furia will make it? I mean, Crew could. There's so many good teams in SAM, so I'm not saying it couldn't be Crew. It wasn't just the regional, it's just the way Falcons, they were on a huge win streak. Not Falcons, Furia. Furia were on a massive win streak before they lost to Complexity, and that just makes me feel like it's going to be Furia and Complexity. But maybe it's Crew. Either way, it doesn't even matter if it's Crew or Furia. Either way, they're probably in the top 8 at Worlds. It's just that only 2 of them can get there, not 3. Well, Ishan, Furia beat Complexity in the Swiss. So I don't think that's a fair comparison if you don't include their Swiss match. Sam and MENA are actually a four-team region. And I should have said it. I mean, MENA's deeper too. I say Falcons, and I think that's because Falcons clears the rest of MENA, whereas I think Sam's a bit more competitive. I think they're all competitive with each other. There's no clear favorite in South America, whereas in MENA, we do have a clear favorite. But you're right. It's not just Rule 1. People are saying it's Falcons in Rule 1. It's actually Falcons Rule 1, and then like 2 or 3 other teams, really. So a very competitive region there, and I'm excited to see who's the second spot. I mean, it'll probably be Rule 1, but that is not guaranteed at all. So teammates are Rezi and Oli. What? Hey, you know what? I think what's it called? What was the team? The gold Hogan mode. Resi was on Hogan mode, and they felt like a top 5 team in Europe last split. Besides that weird, wacky second regional, so I think they can do it. Oli's been at the top of EU, and Joyo obviously has been at the top of the world. So if Rezi can lock in, I think he's the only unproven quantity. Because, like, you can talk down Oli all you want, but he's actually been at the top of EU for, like, about a season consistently. And I know his team struggled on LAN, but he got to LAN. So if Oli and Joyo have gotten to LAN on weaker rosters before, I think together they'll still be able to get to LAN. But anyway, enough about that. Let's quickly finish off this recap. Again, I mentioned it at the top of this stream, but I know we've got more people on now. Gentlemates versus Endpoint, an absolutely wacky series. I didn't get to watch it live, but I was even watching it back knowing what happened. I'm still surprised Endpoint won. Like, I know Endpoint's a good squad, but again, I just didn't expect them to be that good, and I was shocked. I don't think this is indicative. I even have Gentlemates actually over Endpoint in my power rankings, which is to say I don't think this means Endpoint beats Gentlemates every time. I don't think they're necessarily better. But this proves that they're at that level. Like, they're neck and neck with Gentlemates, really, at worst. And I do think that Endpoint's surprisingly going to be in the fight for the major. Now, I don't think Endpoint make it, but I think they're going to be in that battle. And all it takes is them to be in the race and then pop off in Regional 3, and suddenly they steal a major spot away. So, who knows? And honestly, Gentlemates are now in the same position. I think they're on the outside looking in to make a major, and they're going to have to be able to upset teams like Oxygen and BDS if they want a major spot. He's been off a long time setting it up. The major will be hosted. I appreciate that, Mystic. I'm not quite hosting the major. Yeah, the major location has not been announced. Sorry, I missed a bunch of things. Your sad Secret looks so bad. I think Secret got unlucky, but yeah, the problem is getting unlucky the way they did in a 2-spot region means they're almost out of the race before it's even begin. I don't think they're mathematically out of it, but they basically have to win the next 2 regionals in a row to have a realistic chance. And even then, there might be a way where they win twice in a row and still miss out. I don't know. But the point is, they really need to win twice in a row if they want to have any shot to make the major. So tough luck for Secret. Epic Games needs, they really need to tell us where the major is. Everyone was predicting they were going to tell us in the North American Championship Sunday, and then they didn't. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to go if it's anywhere I have to fly to. Like, it's too late to buy a flight, really. It's crazy. Anyway. All right, let's keep going here. Next up, Wild. Another team I was surprised by. Now, don't get me wrong. They're not taking down giants, like teams expected to be at the top of EU. But they beat 2 teams that made it to the main event. They beat Redemption in a Game 5, and they beat Team 3. And again, these aren't top teams in EU, but the fact that they're beating other teams at the main event proves that they could definitely make it to playoffs. I think they could be top 8. Whether they make top 8, probably going to depend on how the Swiss goes, because I think they're right around that top 10 region. So if they get some lucky matchups, that might help them make it. And whereas if they need to get multiple upsets, it's probably not going to happen for them. And we don't need to cover, there's so many teams. We're not going to cover the lower half of the bracket, but all that to say, the one team that made a lower bracket run was 100%. Everybody else started the day in the upper bracket. So 100%, a huge run where they beat Scrubkilla's Tea Time in a sweep. 100%, by the way, consists of, let me check it out, consists of Breezy, Triton, and Crispy. I had them a bit high in my power rankings. After I did it, I was like, maybe I should have had them just a couple spots lower than some of the teams around them. But I think that the most promising aspect of this squad is that they, it's really just that they made a lower bracket run, which might sound crazy, but I think being able to win with your life in the balance for that many times in a row and not choke at the last moment is a good sign. And I think that proves more under pressure than some of these other teams have, just by a tad, just by a hair. You don't know why you know that? Hey, you do know that. Breezy, your GOAT. Yeah. I mean, it's not a bad squad. The problem is, as I said, every team in this regional could make playoffs, so literally 0 matches will be a given for them. They're going to have to fight each and every game. Speaking of each and every game, let's get into it. Enough talking about how the open qualifier portion went. Let's talk about the main event. I mean, they're not even calling it. I'm going to keep calling them main events because that's what it should be. So let's talk about it. The main event is a Swiss stage. 5 rounds, you need to win 3 matches to make it through, or if you lose 3 times, you are eliminated. Then the top 8 will be a single elimination playoff bracket. Best of 7s for the playoffs, best of 5s for the Swiss. I like how he added logos for the teams without a logo. Team 3 has a T and a 3. 100% just says 100%. And then Belagal has that when Speed tweeted out their team, it had a gif of like a animal, like an anteater, I think, doing like a thing. This is like when you score a goal in soccer, I guess, is their name, Belagal or whatever. It's like, well, I looked it up because I didn't know what it meant. And it's when some famous football player, I guess I should call it, went like this after they scored a goal. Anyway, let's get into this bracket here. We're just going to start from the top and go down. Carmine versus Sa. I actually didn't mention Sa very much, and that's because they lost early in the upper bracket, dropped down, and they were the only team that lost to a team that didn't make the main event. They lost to Tea Time, and then still made it to the main event despite Tea Time not qualifying. So that kind of dampened my hopes on Sa. They're not a bad team, but again, they're literally the only team that lost to somebody not here and made it. So, I'm not sure on them. I do think they could do well, but yeah, I'm just not sure if they will. And I will say one thing I am sure about is they're not going to do well against Karmine Corp. I think that's a sweep. I think that's just going to be a fight they can't quite win. Next up, Vitality 100%. This is pretty much the same deal. These teams could take a game, but I just don't expect it. I think if we see Vitality or Karmine Corp struggle, it won't be in this round 1, because especially for this round 1, both these teams have coaches that are going to be prepping. I think Fairy Peak and Farah are going to prep, and for their very first round matchup, they know who they're playing. So they're going to have they're going to be the most prepped for this first round of any match. Even the playoffs, they have less time to prep for. So you have more time to prep for this matchup than any other one of the weekend. All right, next up, Endpoint versus Resolve. A very close match. I don't think anyone's going to fault me for favoring Endpoint, though. And honestly, it just comes down to the fact we've seen Endpoint beat a top-tier team. We haven't seen Resolve beat a top-tier team. I think both these teams are in that, when I say top-tier, in this case, let's say top 10. I think Endpoint, we've seen him beat a top 10 team. We've seen him beat Gentlemates. Resolve, we haven't seen that yet. So even though they're both in the top 10-ish range, I'm going to favor Endpoint. But it's going to be a close one. I think that will be a close one. Exactly the same so far to the game. Fascinating. Maybe it'll change up here. BDS Gentlemates. I think I favor BDS, as probably most will, especially after the open qualifier. And I do want to say I'm not going to drop Gentlemates drastically because they lost that series to Endpoint, but I am going to favor BDS here, and I think Gentlemates will only be able to take off a game. Next up, Oxygen versus Team 3. This is Europe, so maybe predicting a bunch of sweeps is unwise, but I'm going to continue the trend. I think these top teams, just in the first round, not in every round, but especially in round 1 when they've had time to prep, they know who they're playing, I think they're going to have an easy time just to start. Next up, Wild Redemption. I like this one. It is a rematch. It is a rematch of the open qualifier where Wild beat Redemption in a game 5. But I'm going to switch things up a bit. I think Redemption take down Wild in the revenge matchup. It will be another close affair, but I think Redemption get redemption for their open qualifier matchup. And they managed to take it in game 5. All right, next up here, Moist versus Forward. This is an interesting one. I do think you favor Moist, but I actually spoke positively of Forward. I think I might have had them at 16th, actually, but I still spoke positively of them. And I think that in this particular matchup, I was looking at it, I was thinking to myself that of all these teams, right, of SA 100% Team 3 Forward, like the bottom 4, bottom 5, if you include Belagal, I think that they would all benefit from an easier first round matchup. And in this case, I think Forward and Belagal got the luck of the draw, right? You don't want to be playing Oxygen, BDS, Vitality, Karmine Core. Moist, honestly, despite all the positive things I've said, I do think it's an easier matchup. I've just topped all this up, but I'm not going to... I'm still not predicting the upset. I do think Moist wins, but I'm going to give Forward a game. For all those reasons I described, I think they're going to have the time to prep the easier matchup here and do a bit better. Welcome, Havoc, to the chat. How are you doing today? We're predicting the European Swiss bracket, and we'll go into the playoffs as well. So this is the RLCS, by the way, this week. It starts on Friday. It'll be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's going to be a lot of fun. Last match of round number 1, Magnifico versus Belagal. I actually got a lot of flack for ranking Magnifico so low in my power rankings. And I understand why, but I really just don't know if they'll be able to be consistent. And I think one of the things that I'm going to harp on is sometimes they take things the distance when they maybe should not be. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'm going to give Belagal to game 5. I don't think it's a guarantee. I think Magnifico could have an easier time this series, but I could also easily see them making this harder than it has to be. So I wouldn't be too surprised if Belagal makes this one exciting where perhaps it shouldn't be. And takes us to the distance, but still ultimately does drop that to Magnifico. So here we go. We've got our new bracket, and this gives some unfortunate matchups for particular teams. I think probably the unluckiest team would be Magnifico, a team I consider a bit better than being forced to play Vitality so early, but that's the way it rolled. We got Karmine Core. Let's start at the top, though. Karmine Core Redemption. Similar to the early rounds, I just think Karmine Core is going to be a bit overwhelming here. I kind of want to give Redemption a game, but then again, I think there's two ways this go. Either Karmine Core comes out of the gate and just absolutely smashes everybody, or they come out of the gate and they struggle early. I just don't see round 2 being the place they struggle. So I'm going to keep it rolling. I say they sweep again. Let me know if you think I'm crazy for that one, but I think we keep seeing Karmine Core stop. Meanwhile, I think Vitality... I'm going to call this one a struggle fest. I think Magnifico, coming off a win they know they should have done better in, are going to play even better in round 2, but it's still not going to be enough to overcome Vitality. I think this is classic early Vitality struggles paired with Magnifico feeling hot or heating up, I guess I should say. And what I mean by that is, we'll talk about Vitality for a second. They often struggle early. People forget, but in the Spring Major, Vitality lost to BDS, dropped to the lower bracket, and then went on to win the Spring Major. So we've seen them struggle early in tournaments. I think this will be one of those examples. They're not going to lose the series, but I do think they struggle early. It takes it to game 5. And this could have drastic consequences for the next round. I mean, we'll see how it impacts the seeding. I mean, that could be crazy on the seeding. Next up, Endpoint Oxygen. I think another one where, not pretty much standard. I'm going to give Endpoint a game because I really am respecting them a lot after that Gentlemates win, but it's still not going to be enough to overcome Oxygen. Yeah, they dropped a game to Elevate. I forgot about that. Yeah, the legendary game win from Elevate. APAC, first game win of APAC over EU. And then that same APAC team takes down EU in a series later in the World Championship. Yeah, a legendary moment there that most will forget because they beat G1 later in the season. I feel like that game will be less remembered. Beating Complexity, because exactly, I forgot about that. They went to game 5. Yeah, they struggle early, and I think this will be another sign of that. Next up here, BDS Moist. Honestly, the most exciting matchup. I know I put Magnifico Vitality to a game 5, but I think this is the most exciting matchup of round 2. These are two teams that expect to be in the major. I know people talk down Moist, people talk up BDS, or even I've seen some talking down BDS. I think both these teams have major expectations. Whether or not they're realistic, I'll leave that up to you. But they both plan to be at the major, and running into each other in round 2 is not in the cards for either of these teams. They're not going to be happy about this matchup. I think I kind of want to have an upset at some point, but this is not the upset. And I think if it did go to game 5, I'd be worried Moist do get the upset with the ice that Joyo has. So I'm going to say in 4. I'm going to say BDS in 4. All right, let's move on to the next one. Moist will win for sure. Come on, guys. I don't know about that. And I'm someone I consider myself a believer in Moist, but I don't know I just don't see it. I don't see it. I'm gonna leave it here. I'm gonna leave it here. Maybe they outperform expectations, but I feel bad, Abax and Ashan, but I'm gonna leave it. I think Moist drop there to BDS, but they take a game, they make it interesting, and it's not just gonna be like runaway games and they got one. I think all the games are gonna be 1 or 2 goal affairs at worst. All right, next up, Wild versus 100%. I don't give favor Wild here, but not a sweep. I think I'm going to make things a little interesting, and I think 100% make this a spicy one before ultimately do drop it to Wild. Take it to game 5. That's a bit, unexpected. This is kind of like a upset in terms of game differential, because like if we're really going off power ranking, this would be 3-1 or 3-0. But I think they give a little more than expected 100% here. Take it a bit far. Next up, Belagal Seoul. I like this one. These are two teams that, in theory, could go 0-2, but now one of them's guaranteed to win. And I favor Belagal. It's not just the power rankings. I really think they've got it, but that one would probably go game 5. Suz, no slouches. Next up, Resolve, Team 3. A similar story. I think we do favor Resolve, similar to Wild, but I'm gonna make it a bit easier, and I'll say Team 3 only take a game. Then lastly here, Gentlemates Forward. I've been giving, Forward credit. I gave him the game against Moist. I think Gentlemates, after their loss to BDS, is fuming. I think they're fuming, and they take this one in a sweep. I think they're mad, and they take it out on Forward, and they ultimately beat Forward in a sweep. You don't think Moist would make top 7 EU power rankings list? But you're but you're certain they would surprise everybody by making it that far anyways. Interesting. Where did I have them? You said you don't think they're making top 7 EU. I gotcha. Did I put them at 7? Because I stand by that. I do. I forget. I stand by that. I can't even remember where I put them. I think they're in the bubble of the top 8, which is around 7th. And I think whether or not they make playoffs is still very week-to-week dependent. But I guess that's it, is I think they'll make playoffs 2 out of the 3 regionals, I guess is a better way to put it. So, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm crazy. Next up, Karmine Corps BDS. And these are exciting. I mean, if this actually happens, this is basically the top 4, my predicted anyway, top 4 in EU. So this would not be a surprise at all to be the upper round matchups. Probably the most interesting thing is that Vitality is technically the lower seed here versus Oxygen, probably because of game differential. I think you do favor Karmine Corps over BDS. Yes. I think this is finally the time Karmine Corps drops a game, but just a game. Next up, Oxygen versus Vitality. Archie is known for being a Swiss merchant, and we've seen Vitality struggle. But despite all that, I still can't bet against Vitality this early. But I think it goes to game 5. I think Vitality has the biggest struggle to get through the Swiss bracket. It ultimately comes out clean, but it was a struggle to get there. Welcome Rocket to the chat. You think BDS are going to take down Karmine Corps? Not impossible. Not impossible. I do think BDS are going to do well this regional. I don't know if they can take down the giants of either Vitality or Karmine Corps, but maybe they do. I've said this, I put out a power rankings video, Rocket. I'm assuming, I don't know if you got a chance to see it. If not, no worries. But I said it, I think the biggest question mark for BDS is Drawley. I know he has the ceiling to be on potentially the best team in Europe with Monkey Moon, but does he realize that ceiling? Does he reach it this early? I don't know. And we don't know his floor. That's the big question mark, is his floor. Like, we know his ceiling, but we don't know his floor. And I don't know where BDS will land. But anyway, let's keep going. Moist versus Belagal. I like this again. It's 2 teams that in theory should probably be losing in this round, but now one of them's going to win. Maybe I don't know. I kind of like the upset pick for Belagal here. I think for the memes, I'm just going to do it. Because, it's not just the memes. I think this is a rematch of that open qual matchup. We saw Belagal. They've already taken it to a game 5. And like I said, it was a 0-second scoring opportunity that just barely missed. I think it could easily flip the other way, especially when more pressure is on Moist in this situation than Belagal. So let's say it. Let's say it happens. Let's say that the script flips and Belgal managed to take the rematch. I kind of really, as you can probably tell, I really like the rematch going the other way. And to my credit, that happens a lot in Rocket League. We see these rematches from earlier in the event happen, and more often than you would think, given they've already lost, they manage to get it. It's like, it's still less than half the time that the rematch, loser of the original wins, but it's more than you'd expect. You would expect it to be pretty rare, right? Like, they've already played, but no, I mean, the rematching team wins a lot. So I had Moist 5th, really? I had them, let me check out the teams again. Oh, I know why. I forgot. Yeah, I have them over Gentlemates, and honestly, there's good reason. And the same for Magnifico. I stand by that. I think that a lot of these teams, including Gentlemates, Moist, and Magnifico, and Endpoint, all of them, they all are inconsistent. Like, that is Europe's biggest problem. All the teams are inconsistent. And I often see it chalked up to EU being deep, and that might be true. It might be less that these teams are so inconsistent and more that they're all just that good. But even if that's true, I think Moist is in the crowd this season. I don't think they're above it. I think they're in the crowd right along with Gentlemage, right along with Magnifico. I think the only teams that are going to stand out are the top 4. Maybe I'm crazy, maybe I'm wrong, but I think that's going to be the line. I think there's a line. There's Carmine Core Vitality, draw a line, Oxygen, BDS, then draw another line, everybody else. I think those are the gaps. We'll see, but those are the gaps in my personal idea of it. All right, next up, Magnifico Wild. Ooh. This is a close one. I really like Wild. I like Wild, but I don't think this is their time. I think maybe in a future regional, but I think they're still developing as a squad, and this will be a teachable moment. We'll have Magnifico move on 3-1. Next up, a rematch. I've been talking about the rematches. Here's another one. Endpoint Gentlemates. But as much as I've been having this trend, we're going to buck the trend a little bit, and we're going to put Gentlemates in jeopardy. I think Endpoint, another game 5 though, but I think Endpoint take it again. I think they took the last one in a sweep. I think this one's a lot closer of an affair, but ultimately I'm going to see Endpoint come out on top of that one. Next up, Resolve Redemption. I like Redemption, but I think I like Resolve a bit better, and I think I reflected that in the power rankings. And we're going to make this one probably too many game 5s, but we're going to make another game 5. Hey, why not? For the heck of it, we'll say another game 5, and I do think Redemption, I kind of want to make this a game 4, really. I think I'm going to switch it up. I think I put Magnifico in the same tier as BDS and Auction. It's perfect. Hey, Sean, I don't think so, but hey, if that's the thing I'm wrong about in my power rankings, I personally wouldn't feel bad about that because I still had them 8th, right? Unless I put them 9th. I think I had them 8th. I still had them top 8, and I said it that they were, or maybe I didn't say it in the video, but I do believe they're in that race to make the major. There's just a lot of teams in that race, and I do think there's a gap, but I think probably, and I said it in the video, the one that could slip is BDS. I think BDS has the most question marks, and you could see a team like Magnifico slip in there to a major spot, steal it away. So maybe they do. All right, I'm gonna leave it 3-2. I'm gonna leave it 3-2. Resolve, take that one. Next up, Saw versus Team 3. A tough one, but based on how the open qualifier went, which maybe I'm giving too much credit for, I'm going to give this one to Team 3. 3-1 there. Next up, Forward, 100%. It could go either way. Another toss-up, but I'm going to give this one to 100%. And just because this round had literally 0 other sweeps, let's call it. Let's call it a sweep. I think that this is the kind of match that could easily go the other way, and you could see Forward reverse sweep if they drop a game 100%. So who knows? This is like, honestly, this is just as tough, these bottom matches, as this, unironically. Like, predicting who's going to win is almost as hard as predicting who's going to be the bottom 2, just because of how even the bottom of EU is. Like, they're all so even. Yours huge on Tox? I gotcha. You think Ivan and Catalysm are holding him back? Well, that's why we disagree, because I don't think so at all. I think Tox isn't like that much better. I think he's better than Catalysm and Ivan, but I think especially compare him to Catalysm, I think they're at a similar level. I don't think there's that much of a gap there. But maybe I'm crazy. I think that if the two of them had stuck together, maybe bad. alas, a different discussion. All right, next up, let's start with these high matches. Well, first up, let's look for any interesting ones. Oh, this is an interesting one. Moist versus Wild. Two teams that could have been in that final round of 5, and one of them's going home early. Interesting upper matches. Probably BDS Endpoint's the most interesting one to me. But let's move on with this. Let's start with Oxygen Belagal. I've been hyping up Belagal. We've gotten them some upset wins, but the hype run ends at some point, and it's going to end here. I think Oxygen sweep this after a close loss to Vitality. They're going to come out just as angry as Gentlemates did in that early round. I think Oxygen come out on fire and really just stomp Belagal there. Next up, BDS Endpoint. Another one where I think the favorite team wins out. And I think it won't be particularly close, but I'm going to give Endpoint a game there. BDS over Endpoint. Next up, Magnifico Resolve. It could go either way, but frankly, the bracket just worked out for Magnifico here. Like, I didn't have them coming in at round 4 for sure, but in this instance, I think they do. I think they do make it through round 4, and I'm going to give just Resolve a game. I don't think that one's going to go to game 5 either, honestly. I'd say you take Magnifico over. Welcome, Ravender. Welcome, Funky. Endpoint over Gentlemates is crazy. Funky, did you see the open qualifier? Funky? Because Endpoint beat Gentlemates already. Like, they've already beaten Gentlemates. So it's not that crazy if it's already happened. I mean, Funky. It's not that crazy. Maybe you missed it. Let's quickly, because I know not everyone watched it. Endpoint swept Gentlemates. So not only have they beaten them, they beat them 3-0. So it's not that crazy. It really isn't. I do think, and I've said it in my power rankings, I do think Gentlemates are still a little bit stronger on the whole, but any given match against Endpoint is a toss-up for them. Like, there is no guarantee Gentlemates beat Endpoint after the way they lost last time. So I'm doing great, Ravender. I hope you're doing well as well. How's your day been going, Ravender? All right, we got Gentlemates next up versus Team 3. I think this one is easy for Gentlemates, and I think, again, they're going to bounce between feeling super confident and not so confident. I think this is one of those series where they start out of the gate swinging, and they feel super confident, and they drive it home in a sweep over Team 3. Probably disappointing end for Team 3, but they did at least take one series. Next up, Redemption, 100%. I'm going to favor Redemption, but I think 100% make it probably more of a fight than many would expect. But Redemption do ultimately take that one. Move on to the final round here of Swiss. Next up, Moist Wild, a similar story. I think Wild give Moist a run for their money, but ultimately come up just a tad short. All right, these are some spicy matchups. Some really spicy matchups here. And I think I'm going to have an upset. It's a very good... Yeah, they're going to end up like M80, a good roster that ends up bottling. Maybe. I think they're going to bottle the other way. I think they might miss the playoffs. I jumped straight to this. And I was thinking about it. I was heavily thinking about it, but I'm going to give it to Gentlemates. I think Belagal are going to give them a run for their money, though. They're going to give them a run for their money. Welcome, Ravender. So we're not playing Rocket League right now. We're actually predicting the Rocket League Championship Series, which is the professional scene for Rocket League. We're predicting how the first regional for Europe will go. It's this weekend. It's going to be streamed on twitch.tv/Rocket League. It's the professional, level in Europe. Not really one of, at this point, the best region in the world. Many consider it to be, but at the very least, top 2. And it is, it's going to be an exciting regional. The reigning world champions, well, I guess that's the only team that stayed the same, but top 4 teams from the last World Championship, all from Europe. So very exciting region. Yes and no. Yes and no, Sean. I kind of, when I made the power rankings, I think I was more reserved and I was taking things as what they were. Because in reality, it was just one open qualifier. And they were best of 5s, in some cases best of 3s. So obviously you should take all of that with a grain of salt. But I needed a team, and this happened in North America. There will be a team that goes on a run that you don't expect. In North America, it was a combination of snowmen and pirates on a boat. There's always a team that makes that run that isn't expected. So when I'm doing power rankings, I'm not predicting flukes. I'm predicting, strength. when I'm predicting a bracket, you can include flukes in your bracket. I think there's no problem with that. You know a fluke is going to happen. It's Rocket League. It happens every time in the RLCS. Somebody's going to go on a fluky run. Who will it be? I don't know. But it could be Belagon. So I don't think it's that crazy to say, hey, Belagon took Moist to 5. Maybe they have a fluky run here. And honestly, taking Gentlemates to game 5, this probably is a fluky run. Like, this should not be happening. But hey, it's not like some team out of nowhere. They have speed. I think something that's overlooked is when you have one or even two experienced pros with the new young guns. And in this case, Hyder, Speed have been around the scene for a while. Speed's been at the top of RLCS. So this is not a no-name like player. Like, let's quickly look at Speed here. Oh, I searched it instead. Oh, no, we're going to go back to Wikipedia. This is not some unknown player. He has literally been to World Championships. He's been at the top of Europe. Wait, has he been to a World Championship? Maybe he hasn't been. I thought he was, but I guess he would have made the World Championship in the season that there was no World Championship. But anyway, point being, he's been around the top of the scene in Europe. Like, this is not some unknown pro. He made top 4 at DreamHack Valencia. Not an unknown player. He's been top 4 at a major event before. These DreamHacks from back in the day were like, it's top tier Rocket League lands. So it wasn't RLCS, but it is top tier lane. He's gotten top 4. I don't think it's that crazy to Belagon go on a run with a player like Speed. Commit Hogan mode. Hey, yeah, they could be the next Hogan mode. I mean, who knows? Who knows? It's same thing as like you said, Hogan mode had Scrub Killa, and that was a major part of their run. When you have a player that's hyping up the young players, but actually can back it up with like their experiences. Like I think that's something people don't get. Is it's more than just the play on the pitch. It's the ability to be a team player and hype up your teammates. And when you have the experience, the ability to like share the knowledge, the lessons learned you've gained from being a pro, and then when you're hyped, they know that you know what it takes to be a top 4 in the world, like a player like Speed who's been at top 4 in the world. So when you actually get hyped, they'll believe it because they know they believe you're hyped because they know you've seen it all. Hey, I'm overcomplicating it. Thank you, Ravender. I really do appreciate it. Thank you for subscribing and liking the video. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. All right, next up, Endpoint Redemption. Now we're going up from the bottom to the top. I am going to favor Endpoint. I don't want this to be a straight bracket too much, like no upsets, but really, I'm just not high on Redemption. I really don't see the run for them. I think Astral and Cash are top tier players, but especially in Astral's case, we just haven't seen it in a while since he got top 2 at the major with Moist. And if they made a major, he could go on a crazy run again because Astral is just like that, but I don't think they're making the major out of Europe. I just don't see it. I don't see them beating Endpoint either. Next up, Resolve Moist. I don't want to go in here and have 0 upsets. So we're going to call this the upset. It's going to happen. We're going to say Resolve over Moist. I want to have a team that's not expected to make top 8 get top 8. And in this case, we're going to say it's Resolve. I don't think it's too crazy that after Moist have gotten, honestly, one of the unluckiest Swiss brackets. Like, if we take a look at this, Moist have had to play, actually, they had an easy round 1, but then they had to play BDS, Belagon, which I guess that's an easy matchup, but if Belagon's on a run, that's not easy. Then they had to play Wild and Resolve in back-to-back matches to qualify. Those are tough matches. Those are not easy cakewalks. So, not an easy bracket. I almost take it back. I feel like Gentlemates might have the toughest bracket. Or maybe Redemption. Actually, I take it back. I think I found it. Redemption had the hardest bracket. Because they had to play Wild, Carmine, Resolve, 100%, and Endpoint. And the only easy team, I'm going to use easy in quotation marks because nobody's easy in this region, was 100%. So the only easy team was 100%. That's a really tough run that included a team like Carmine Corp. All right, but enough about that. This is our bracket. So these are our top 8. We have Carmine Corp, Vitality, then Auction and BDS Magnifico, then Gentlemates, Resolve, and Endpoint. Am I crazy? We got 6 likes. Yeah, we did. Thank you, Ravender, for pointing that out. Zen is the best player in the world. Probably. I would agree with that statement. Just because he's the best player in the world, though, doesn't mean his team can't have some, interesting results like this Game 5 against Oxygen. And I said it in my power rankings video, I don't think they're the favorite anymore. I don't think that's like to knock down Zen's teammates too much. It's not just on Merdosin. It's not just on Alpha 54. But I think Karmine Corp leveled up, and Vitality is going to have to rise to the occasion if they want to keep their spot at the top. You love Resolve roster. Noasaki Raziers is amazing. Hey, they are really good. I think my biggest concern is they didn't show a lot in the match against BDS. But I say that, and they did take a game, and none of their games were blowouts. Like, they were playing close against BDS. So maybe I should give them more credit. And I did put them right that top 8 level. I think I might have had them 9th. I don't remember the exact spot. And I think they could make, I said it, I mean, a lot of the teams can make the playoff, but Resolve definitely can make the playoffs. So it wouldn't be too crazy to have them here in the playoffs. Unfortunately for Resolve, though, they drew Vitality. But let's run it from the top. I think the unlucky teams, if you have them, are Endpoint and Resolve, but I don't really think they're that unlucky when this is just really the way the bracket works. I think you were pretty much bound to run into either Karmine Corp, Vitality, or Oxygen if you get in this lower round. I think I could be wrong, but I expect this to be the top 3 seeds. I really do. I don't know the order, but I think these are going to be the top 3 seeds, and I would be shocked if it wasn't that way. Going into playoffs, I should say. Just going into playoffs. But here we go. Let's keep going. Karmine Corp Endpoint. It's now a best of 7, and it's still Karmine Corp domination. Like, Endpoint are no slouches. I'm going to give them a game. Maybe they get 2. But I just don't see it going the distance, and I think this is a relatively easy win for Karmine Corp. Next up, BDS Magnifico. I don't want to have a straight-up bracket, but I don't see an upset here. I just, call me chalk or whatever you want to say, but I don't see it happening. I think BDS take this. I'm going to give Magnifico another couple games. I'm going to give him a couple games. I just don't believe in it yet. I don't believe in it yet. Maybe, but I don't believe in it yet. Ooh, you think Alpha is a better second player than Rise? Huh. I have to think about this. It's not, and because I'm thinking about it, I mean, I can come out and say it. That's not a crazy take. Like, you're not out of left field. I think I disagree, but it's not like some crazy take. Like, I see where you're coming from, because he's clearly a really good player too. It's not just Zen. Like, Vitality didn't have a perfect split because of Zen. They couldn't have had a perfect split just because of one player. Even when that player is Zen, he had to have support from his backing cast to do what they did, and obviously Alpha's a major part of that supporting cast. So I do think he's one of the best players in the world, like top 10 even. Is he better than Rise? I just don't know. Maybe this split will answer that question. I think this split will answer that question. So, maybe. Speaking of Alpha, his team, Vitality, is going to take down Resolve. And I think this will be the sweep of the upper bracket. Maybe Resolve get a game, but I'm going to call it a sweep here. Again, Vitality struggled early, had some close games, game 5s. Now they start to get into the swing of things in the playoffs. Next up, though, Oxygen versus Gentlemates. And again, I didn't want to have a chalk playoff bracket, but it looks like I'm having a chalk playoff bracket because I think Oxygen win this. I did not intend for this to be chalk, but it's going to be, I'm going to give them a couple games again, but I just don't see a lot out of Gentlemates here. I think this is maybe even the best series they play all weekend, and it's still not enough against Oxygen. All right, next up, top 4. This is my top 4 of the power rankings. Again, I didn't want a chalk bracket, but we got a chalk bracket. Karmine Corp, BDS. I would say you favor... you favor Karmine Corp. I'm trying to decide if this one will be close. I don't think it will, but I'm going to give... Nah, I don't think it will. I think BDS could do a lot better. Alright, no worries. Thank you for stopping by, Ravender. Have a great night. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I'm gonna say BDS 1 game. I think Karmine Corp 4, BDS 1. I'm gonna call it that. But you know what? Maybe BDS do better, but I just don't see it going anyway. I think I see Karmine Corp being the team that slams it home, gets through semifinals. Next up, Vitality versus Oxygen. The most interesting semifinal, because I think Oxygen is closer. I said there was a tier gap between Karmine Corp, Vitality, and the rest, and that is true. But I do think Oxygen is a bit closer than BDS. I'd love to be proven wrong, but I do think they're a bit closer. Even though they're closer, I'm going to give it to Vitality. But I'm going to say, maybe surprisingly, Oxygen put up a real fight. And I think that, especially given Oxygen took their other match to best of 5, and this is a rematch, maybe it goes Oxygen's way. I mean, when I'm predicting a Game 7, it really could go either way. But I'm going to swing the side of Vitality here. All right, grand final time. Ooh, do I stick by my guns? Do I have Vitality take it? It's a toss-up. I said in my power rankings, Karmine Corp is number 1, and I will stand by that. I do think they're going to win this first regional, but I'm going to give it Game 7 because the reality is this is a coin flip. I think, especially since we haven't seen a full regional, it's a coin flip. I'm going to give it to Karmine Corp, but I would not be surprised if Vitality walks away with the crown this weekend. I mean, it's not too crazy to say that could happen, and maybe it will. Who knows? Let me know in the chat who do you think is going to win the regional. Share a link to your bracket if you want me to review. We can review it on stream, and we'll see what happens this weekend. But there we go. You have it. My champion is Karmine Corp. My prediction. That's how I think it'll go. So to recap, this is the playoff bracket. Karmine Corp beating Endpoint, BDS, and Vitality along their way to that win. Additionally, they beat Sub, Redemption, and BDS. So that's actually 2 wins over the BDS if you also count the Swiss. Interestingly, in the Swiss, I have Moist, Redemption, and Bellegal just barely missing out, along with Wild, Team 300% winning a game but dropping short of round 5. I think this Swiss has so many different ways it could go that I'm probably completely wrong. But something I will stand by is this top 3. Again, I do think this will be the top 3 seeds out of Swiss. And I think, although it could go another way, I think these were my bottom 2 seeded power ranking teams. And it's hard to say who will go out last in an event like this, but I do think it will be Sun forward. I'm just not sure, 100% sure, but that's the way I see it going. All right, so that brings us to the end of the prediction, but it doesn't have to stop there. We're going to quickly do Pickstop. So for anyone that isn't aware, there's this little game you can play called Pickstop, and it's basically like a pickups. Like you pick who you think's going to advance. We'll run through it, but you pick who you think's going to advance, who you think's going to win, and you're competing with other people. They do a leaderboard, and you can win. So it's a little fun thing to do. You can check it out by going to pickstop.gg/RL if you want to do it yourself. Not that I'm sponsored or anything. I just think it's a fun game. You can check it out yourself. So who do I think is going to advance? Honestly, I'm going to go by my power rankings more than what I did for this bracket. So I know in this bracket, I had Karmine Corp, Vitality, Oxygen, BDS, Magnifico, Gentlemates, Resolve, and Endpoint. But I'm going to change up a little bit. I mean, the ones we can say for sure, Karmine Corp, Vitality, like I said, tier number 1. I think just below them, you got BDS and Oxygen. Would not be surprised if it's these 4. Then the next 4 are a lot harder. But I do think we'll see Endpoints. I feel pretty confident. I do think we'll see Magnifico. Then the last 2 are true toss-ups. But to spice it up a little bit, make it a little different than the bracket, how about we make it Wild and Resolve. Spicy. This is a spicy top 8. No, I don't want to go too spicy. Don't I keep changing? I'm going to change it up to this. I think Moist, Resolve. We're dropping Gentlemates. We're switching it over to Moist. It just could go so many ways. I'm gonna pick this. So those are the top 8. Now we're going to pick our 2 3-0 teams. The teams you think are going to go undefeated. And I don't think there's any reason to go against the grain. Karmine Corp and Vitality. Now the teams that are going to go eliminated 0-3, and again, I'm not going to go against the grain from my predictions. And you know what? Why not? Well, you know what? Let's just stick with the bracket predictions. I take it back. I think the one difference just being Moist for Gentlemates. Nah. We'll keep it the same. So 03 are and forward, as you can see there. And I think we'll stick with this as our predictions for Pickstop. Very exciting, very exciting. In fact, if you want to, you can join my league. So if we quickly bring up the league information here, I don't know if I can share a link, but you can look out for AskPat13's league on Pickstop. If you join it, you should be able to search for it. Yeah, you can search for it. You can join it. It's unlocked. You just join and you get in on the prediction battle. Unrelated, but what 2 decals would you buy from the esports shop? I haven't actually looked at it. I've looked at them, but I haven't sat in game and really thought about it yet. I know I'm going to buy 2 or 3. I think when you buy a pack of credits, don't you have to buy 3? I don't remember. The last time I bought decals, you had enough credits to buy 3, so I bought 3. But probably going to buy the teams I'm supporting. So I'm definitely going to buy Luminosity just because I'm supporting them this season. I'm probably going to buy... I would have bought a Gaming Gladiators, but they don't have a decal. And Elevate is no longer the org that Virtuoso and Realize their team is under. So I'm probably not going to buy an APAC decal at all. And then for Europe, I don't know. I kind of... I know that people buy based on looks and based on who they support. I usually buy 2 of the 3, because if I'm going to buy 3, I buy 2 based on who I'm supporting. And then the third, I'll just buy the best looking. And I haven't decided what's the best looking. Honestly, I can tell you it would have been G2 if they kept the Samurai. I really like that Samurai decal, but that's not in the game anymore. So I don't know what I'll pick for best looking. But for my EU team I'm supporting, it's either going to be Gentlemate or Endpoint. I haven't decided. It's going to be one or the other. Yes, Ishan, did you send your bracket? I haven't looked. I'm assuming you sent it over on Discord. So give me a minute. Oh, yeah, 1 second. All right, you guys can see this, right? Perfect. Okay, so this is a viewer's prediction. This is Sean's prediction in the his bracket prediction. And I think you can see the whole thing. Yep, everyone can see the whole thing, which is perfect. Let me read the chat really quickly. People say, it does. Luminosity's decal is not good, but I'm going to buy it anyway because I am a Luminosity fan. And that's really how I buy 2 of the 3. I'm just telling you that straight up. I buy the teams I'm rooting for because that's, in my opinion, that's the biggest point. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with buying a beautiful decal. Of course, there's nothing wrong with that. And like I said, I probably will buy 1 of the 3 that I just think looks the coolest. But for the other 2, straight up more important to me to buy who I'm rooting for. That's the main point. It's literally like buying a jersey. Of course, you're going to buy your favorite team jersey, even if it's ugly, it's your favorite team. So I'm going to buy Luminosity anyway. But anyway, enough about the decals. Funky's gonna buy Vitality, either Rule 1 or Crew. Nice. No, there's nothing wrong with buying whatever you want. I think they're all nice in their own way, even the ones that are a bit uglier than the others. All right, let's look here. Interesting. So you got Carmine Core. First thing that struck me is I wanted to check it out, and you do have Vitality and Carmine Core advancing through the top. You also have BDS, Oxygen, and Magnifico, which is very similar. Where it strays just a tad is you have Redemption instead of, I think it was, I'm already forgetting, instead of Resolve. But you also have Endpoint and Gentlemate. So for everything we had different, this is surprisingly similar. A very surprisingly similar Swiss. There's a lot of differences in the middle. For example, you had Magnifico beat Oxygen, not something I expected. You also had Oxygen struggling with some Game 5s in there. You had Oxygen lose to Magnifico in the quarterfinals, but all in all, pretty similar. Probably the biggest discrepancy is you have Endpoint beating BDS in the quarterfinals. You also have Endpoint beating Moist, Resolve. Actually, that's not that different than what I did. But still a few big differences. If we look near the bottom, you had Sub beat 100%, but you also had Forward lose, so very similar, really, especially with Cell losing the next round. I mean, we're pretty much the same. I think one of the biggest takeaway differences is that you don't have Belagal into that, round 5. You have Wild into round 5, which I don't disagree with at all. I think they're a good team. Yeah, honestly, I'm looking at this, nothing crazy. Really nothing strikes me as too wild. Again, probably the biggest upset of the whole thing would be Endpoint over BDS. And I know it's a game 7. Almost Magnifico. I know, I take it back. Sorry. The biggest upset would be Magnifico over Oxygen. Not because Magnifico is too much worse than Endpoint. They're about the same. But because Oxygen's a little bit over BDS in my estimation. So some pretty crazy stuff there. You also have Magnifico take 2 games off Karmine Corp. Very interesting. No, not crazy, but interesting. But yeah, really, all in all, our brackets are surprisingly similar. The biggest difference is who made top 4, which, to be fair, is massive for Worlds implications. So it would be very, important for Endpoint and Magnifico to get a semifinal finish, because that is huge in trying to make the major, trying to make Worlds. So it'll be interesting to see. They are really good. Welcome RL Win Harmonic. You rate them higher after they beat Gentlemaids. Same. I also, it's definitely a little bit of recency bias, but it's not too crazy. If we go back to my predictions, I'm looking at a viewer's predictions right now. If we go back to my predictions, I have Endpoint making it to top 8. And although they do lose to Karmine Corp, if they were facing a different team, maybe they make semifinals. Like, if they were in this BDS match, and I know I'm just talking about how he has them beating BDS, that's not really that crazy. It isn't that crazy to have Endpoint beat BDS. It is surprising, but it's not like crazy. Gentlemates is not a bad team, but I do think that's kind of just even more telling for Endpoint. I think I have Gentlemates as top 6, and I think if Endpoint can take down a top 6 squad, why not take down a top 4 squad? And if they can take down a top 4 squad, they could make top 4. Like, the cards are there for Endpoint, depending on how, if you want to put a positive swing on it. So I can easily see that. Going back to what Funky and Sean were talking about, I bought TSM and Gentlemates just because they look cool. Very nice. Oh, that's it. I forgot. TSM has a dragon on it, right? So I might buy the TSM logo or decal because it looks pretty cool. If you bought an Octane decal, it would be Space Station. Look at the LJ. I'll have to look at LJ's design. I'm only buying Dominus versions because I play Dominus, so that does, come into effect. Like, I think sometimes the decals look better on Dominus than other cars. Last year resembled it more, but no worries. All right, no worries. Endpoint and Magnifico about to become the underdogs. Hey, they easily could. I mean, Sean, you could be correct. You're sucker for that Japanese-Chinese dragon look. Oh, it is nice. It's definitely a nice decal. Like, unironically, now I haven't looked at them all again. I have to look more. But if I'm buying one for style, it unironically probably would be the TSM one for style purposes. All right. That's pretty much does it with our predictions. If anyone has anything else RLCS they want to chat about, I'm here for it. Or if you want to share your prediction bracket in the chat, or message me on Discord, or put it in the Discord. My Discord link is being spammed every so often by the bot. You can scroll up and find it. If you join the Discord, share your bracket. I'll take a quick look at it. Otherwise, we'll pretty much end the discussion here. There's not too much more to talk about besides, let me zoom out on this. View, zoom back out to 100 so we can see more of it. I mean, that's pretty much it. I think I'll leave predictions up while we chat about it. What's everyone's thoughts? Am I crazy? Am I correct? I know, obviously, we've already seen Sean's thoughts. What would be the most surprising team to make playoffs? I mean, that one's probably easy. It would be one of these, 100% forward team 3. Actually, a different question. Let me know in chat, who would be the most surprising team that could make top 8? I'll start. Belagal. It's not just a meme. I think they're I think everyone in Europe, I said it, I think everyone in Europe could make playoffs, but I think one of the teams that has an actual, even if very slim, an actual chance at it is Belagal. But it would be quite a surprise to see them there. We'll see, though, if anyone can pull off an upset and make it there. And the crazy thing is, I know I had a chalk bracket, but Twisted's bracket isn't really that crazy. He also goes by Sean, by the way, in the chat. And the reason why is once you're here in a best of 7 in the quarterfinals, you are 1 win away. Like, upsets in an isolated one match, they happen. I think that's what happened in North America. I think Shopify Rebellion are a great team, and I am giving them credit for getting to top 4. But I do think it was a bit of an upset for them to get that win. I think in future matchups, I don't necessarily know if they'll be getting top fours, although they easily could. But same thing here in Europe. I think once you're in that semifinals, anything can happen. Just play your best game, and it could be enough. It could be enough to lock you into a top four slot. All right, I'm running out of talking points, and it's getting late, so this could be pretty much the stream. I want to thank everybody for watching. I know it wasn't a long stream, just over an hour, hour 15, but it's been a lot of fun, and I hope you guys enjoyed. I think I'm not expecting too many crazy upsets in Europe. I think it's gonna be pretty easy event. Well, welcome. I don't know if you're saying hi or goodbye, Mystic, but yeah, this is pretty much goodbye. I'm wrapping things up. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you, Mystic, Sean Funky, Win, Harmonic, everybody that's been chatting and interacting here. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. You guys are what makes these streams special. Wait a minute. Oh, Mystic, I missed a message from you. You said, I feel like Vitality will choke their third win, resulting in a Carmine Core 4-2, just being imaginative. Yeah, it easily could happen. It easily could happen. Where it should have went to Game 7 and then Carmine Core win. Because, like, that happened a lot in series that easily were, like, considered close, where they're all one-goal games, tons of overtimes, and they end 4-2 because of maybe an overtime win from Carmine Core in Game 6. Either way, though, I totally get it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I think too few viewers do a raid today, so we're not going to do a raid. But go ahead, if you're still into feeling like a Rocket League mood, go find another Rocket League streamer and give them a shout out just yourself. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoy the regional this weekend. I don't know if I'll do a watch party stream, but my plan for now is to do a recap stream on Saturday. So at the very least, look for an evening stream on Saturday where I talk about, the results so far and hype up the top four, because at that point we'll know who the top four are. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you on Saturday. Check out the most recent video if you haven't. It's power rankings for EU. It's a lot of what we talked about today, but it's more concise and it's not really super concise, but it's a concise breakdown. I show some footage from the open qualifier. I think you'll enjoy. So thank you guys again so much for watching. And before I ramble on too long, I'm going to end it here. See you guys next stream. Have a good evening.